All right, well, it's 6. Yeah. Yeah, I was going to say in my field of business, we don't say we got held up at work. It's one of these things. So it is 6 p.m. on Tuesday, July 22nd, and I will call this meeting of the City of Stoughton Finance Committee to order. As we talked about, we have a quorum. Ozzy is on vacation, and Tanya has work delays. But we do have a quorum, and I can certify that we are in compliance with open meetings law. Next order of business is public comment. Do we have anyone here for public comment at this meeting? Hearing none, we will move on to communications and presentations, and the first one is the debt schedule payoff. Lisa.
Okay. Yep, included in the packet, Brett Schumacher had requested to see a list of our outstanding debt and when payoff is going to be. So this does include all general obligation debt as well as the utilities revenue debt. To look where and when it's paid off, you would look under the final maturity column. So for instance, 2015, that the final maturity is this year. 2016 will be next year, etc. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thanks for putting that together, Lisa. I think that gives us a really good snapshot as far as, because I know we'll be taking on some more, we'll have some GO coming on for this year, and we'll have some more that's coming on in the following years. And as we get we're not really even coming close to what our statutory and or policy limit is for debt. But I just want everybody to see what we have and that we are making good on it. So.
Okay. And we can easily produce this. It actually came from Ellers, so they just have a click of a button to produce a report. So anytime you want to see this,
fantastic.
It's easy to put together.
Nope, looks good. Thanks.
Yeah, and I like the stacked bar chart where you can see what is made up visually for each year. So thank you for that. Next is U.S. Bank Enterprise Banking Services Contract Participation Agreement.
Okay, this is just for informational only, full disclosure. We're going to sign for another 2-year agreement with U.S. Bank. So, yep, just informational, full disclosure purposes.
Any questions on that? I didn't think so. So we will move on to the approval of minutes from our 7-8 meeting.
Move to approve minutes.
Second.
Okay, moved by Brett, seconded by Lisa. Any edits, questions, comments? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And none opposed, so we will approve the minutes. And next is reports, so we'll go back to Director Trebetowski.
Okay, so included are the normal reports for June. It's the same comments as before, nothing new or substantial to mention, but happy to answer any questions if you have some.
This has come up before. I noticed True by Hilton is this, do you know, is this the latest that they've gone? Or we're not sure at this point?
I believe so. I think last year it was approximately July timeframe because, again, they can't have their liquor license until they're paid in full.
Thank you. All right. Then I think the next item is a resolution. Let me pull that up here. Yep, here we go. All right, so it's Resolution 110 of 2025. It's agreement with Ehlers for pro forma analysis on TID District 8. Did you want to speak to this, Lisa, or?
Yep, so the Alexander Company submitted a TIF request. The next step is to have Ehlers complete a pro forma analysis. So they'll evaluate the financial feasibility, identify if there is a gap where public assistance is warranted. So we've done this with many other developers.
Any questions on that? Lisa?
Not really a question and not related to this one because it would be too late, but I'm just thinking going forward, you know, when we've done these before, the developer's required to pay them with the developer agreement, but if the developer agreement never happens, potentially, you know, we could be out, and I think this happened with the dental office, which not for 15,000, we could be out 15,000 for doing the work, you know, and they're requesting the funds. So I think it's worth a conversation in the future whether or not we share that cost up front. And I don't know if that's the way to go, but maybe just have a future conversation about how we want to handle these, because it's a significant amount of money. And if you know, and I feel like perhaps the last potential developer, we spent a lot of money and I don't know that we got that money back. Maybe we did. The last riverfront, you know, developer that was considering the property. So anyway, I don't want to waste a lot of time on it, but maybe a conversation for a future meeting if there's something we want to do differently about this or can do differently to share those costs up front. Maybe it's an application fee, I don't know. But anyway, but not related to this one. I think that would be way too late to throw that into the mix.
Is this covered under a cost reimbursement?
I was just going to say they have a cost reimbursement and do deposit funds, whether there's still enough in there that I would have to look into. And I'm not aware of what previously happened with this development.
Yeah, I think, you know, it would be covered under the cost reimbursement, but, you know, we would have to enforce it. But we certainly could have that conversation. We talked about maybe doing like the initial consultation. We wouldn't require cost reimbursement, but something would trigger that, because we talk to people all the time when we're speculating, but when something actually becomes, you know, something that's being pursued, then we typically enter the cost reimbursement agreement, but we may or may not have any staff time or professional services invested at that point. So we can look at that.
Yeah, and this was a similar question that I was going to ask, so I won't ask that, and I'll piggyback on yours. How do other cities do that? Would we want to look into that?
The city attorney would tell you that that's getting to be more and more common practice. I don't know from your experience what you've seen.
Yep, definitely having a deposit and cost reimbursement agreements.
Thank you.
Any other questions on this? All right, then I would entertain a motion.
I'd make the motion to recommend approval to council.
I'll
Motion.
second.
Okay, motion by Lisa, seconded by Brett. Any final questions on this? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 And no opposed, so we will recommend that to council. Next one is a slightly different resolution, 111, entering into an agreement with Ehlers for a 2025 tax increment District 7 allocation amendment.
So as it's been presented when Todd was here at the status of the TIDs, as we're issuing additional debt for TID 8, Greg was here and actually showed cash flows where TID 7 could be a donor to TID 8 as it's already underwater and needs assistance, and this is without any future development. So to be a donor, the TID 7 would need an allocation amendment.
Any questions on this one? Like you said, we went over all the numbers 2 weeks ago.
Yep, it's been talked about many times, and then there's actually cash flows that showed what TID 7 would be able to donate to TID 8 to just cover the current costs that haven't been covered.
And this will be beneficial to us, the auditors will be fine, would be good with it.
Yes,
and everything.
it'll actually look better with our rating call coming up as well, because a concern in their rating last time was the general fund advancing funds to the TIDs and when that's going to be repaid back. So this will allow that to be repaid back as well.
Any other questions? All right. Entertain a motion.
Move to recommend.
Second.
All right. Brett moves to recommend and Adrian seconds. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And any opposed? Okay, we'll recommend that to council.
Patrick, I got one bit before we get too much further
Sure.
into this. We have a large number of time sensitives in this committee this time. And I understand that we do need to do, or, finance usually has to move fairly quickly, especially if it's to pay something out, or in this case, taking advantage of an auction opportunity or other things that need to meet deadlines in there. We always try to stay away from doing time-sensitive things, so I think we either have to get to the point of absolving the finance committee of that based on what deadlines and that are, or we'll have to get things into the regular time frame. Mostly just so that council members do have their time to be able to review the things. I know there is, but it's a shortened amount of time so that everyone gets a chance to review items. So we'll either have to think about an absolution for just this committee versus others based on deadlines and paying out things, or else put things into the regular time frame.
Okay.
But just a thought for right now.
No, I think that's a good thought. Some of the items that are on here, we have labeled as time sensitive only because they're going to council tonight.
Yeah.
But many of them, we've been having ongoing conversations, so it's not like it's out of the blue. But certainly, there is a perception there that, there is an excessive amount on there. And some of them are related to just trying to keep things moving on the riverfront development. Others are, we're having a borrowing coming up here soon, so if we're gonna do this, then we need to get it in under the wire. Otherwise, we'll have to wait and put it in the 2026 budget, which is always an option if you choose not to approve them. Some of them, and I know Brett's item in particular, when we get to it, he can explain why that one's time sensitive, but yeah, so we put time sensitive on there, but that doesn't suggest that this is the first anybody's heard of it either, so
I know that.
trying to find that balance can be challenging
Yeah.
for us.
This one just seemed like it was the perfect storm of a whole bunch
yeah.
of different
Yeah,
good reasons to do so, and they all got piled into this one.
yeah,
But
and it gives you an indication of really the workload
There's a
that's
lot of
going on
stuff
right
going
now
on.
too, and we're trying to also get closure on some of this stuff
Mm-hmm.
because it just snowballs if we don't get it to a decision point.
yeah, just more so as an addressing point, because there have been opinions by alders in the past about whether we need to do these, or the time frame around it. But
Yeah, and we're more than
Yep.
happy to explain the rationale on
Yep.
any or all of them if that's what you want us to do.
I mean, I think they're all pretty well self-explanatory as far as why they need to be done quickly when we go through them, but
Mhm. So-
Yeah, when we went through the agenda, and especially with the council agenda items, we did try to see if there was anything that we really need to do this, and looking at it, the ones that are,
Yeah.
you know, to keep developments moving forward, or again, one of the items coming up is because we're issuing debt and we need to know if we can put this in or not.
And I would also share that internally, we're having conversations and we'd like to bring it to the committees about consent agenda, administrative review, and some other things that we might do to create efficiencies, but still have the council have the opportunity to be, you know, part of the decision-making process. Because it's not only a huge workload for us, it makes for long meetings for you guys as well. So we'll probably be bringing some conversations to at least some of the committees, if not to the council as well at some point.
Okay,
That's your heads up.
all right, fantastic.
Because we agree with you.
All right.
I'm done. I've
No,
hijacked
that's,
it and-
thank you. I have a guess as to which one is the Brett resolution, but I'm not gonna, I'll see. I'd be happy to have you tell us which one it is. I have a theory.
Okay.
So the next one is 112. This is to amend the 2025 capital improvement plan budget for City Hall renovation needs assessment. This is $25,000 fiscal impact.
So I can explain the financing. Chris can explain more she's spearheading the renovation portion, so she can explain more on that side. But what we're doing here is we're not gonna exceed the amount of approved for the 12,605,000 for the debt issue. What we're doing is using part of a project that was included in this debt issue for $10,000. And then if there's any unused underwriter's discount or any additional premium, reoffering premium that we can use, we'll use to fund the remaining portion. So it's where you may be able to downsize the issue if we were not doing this. We'll just be using a portion to here, not downsizing the debt.
So this is just to get the plans to look at what, I mean, I know you guys are all aware that it's a bank and there's a lot of unused space, and it has come to light with the shifting of stuff going on in the city hall. So the plan is to hopefully have plans put together by November of this year, and then we can put together the following year, so 2023, a phasing plan, and then that would most likely kick off. And depending on what comes back and how affordable things are, and if we can do small projects versus big ones, I would say probably 2027. So I'm not, like, we're not renovating it tomorrow.
Yeah, and if you want to come and take a tour again, we can kind of show you where we think that there's opportunity for better utilization of space. We'd like to have a meeting room that's more visible to the public when we're having committee meetings. You've all been there. You have to kind of go through the maze to get to the conference room. So that's one example of one of the efficiencies that we're looking at gaining.
We also just did a building analysis for the whole citywide. Our building came back needing HVAC and a bunch of other stuff, and we don't want to make those improvements. We want to look at first how we want to renovate the building and then make the improvements if that's the direction we go. And we need to find out if it's feasible, like how feasible any of this stuff is. So
Yeah, so in that example, if we decided to put in HVAC units and then 2 years from now say, oh, we want to rearrange offices and we have to do additional duct work, or maybe the HVAC unit wasn't sized properly for future, offices or whatever. We've talked about potentially, trying to put an elevator in. We might get questions like that answered, whether or not it's cost effective to do that. So that's kind of the rationale. And if we chose not to go ahead and do this, then we'd have to wait until next year to start the process.
I think we wanted to get a jump on just the plans, and then that way we can really look at the long term. I mean, this could end up being a 5-year project, or is there low-hanging fruit? And Tim also talked about it. We have, and as some of you are there, we have night meetings and the front door is not visible, but it's open to the public. And that's a concern, quite frankly. So those are the kind of things that we need to be looking at.
Would that renovation include like the downstairs area as well?
Yeah, so it might. We need to see, so first of all, if we start making, this is the kind of conversations we were having with the architects, and we're like, okay, what level of renovations can we do before we're hitting the threshold to bring, for example, ADA requirements into play in the basement, right? So right now they can have meetings in the basement because it was done prior to, I think it's 92 that ADA was implemented. But if we start doing a certain level, when do we need to bring that up so that people can reach it? The other thing too is I don't believe our building is sprinklered. I know that I think the windows also need replaced in certain areas. Like that came back in the assessment, which we're going to get all that to the architects. We need to see, like, could we do this one thing without hitting the price point that means that we have to put in an elevator, and is that going to be the faster way to do it, and then look at like a 5-year plan for an elevator? The other problem we're going to have is that the building is, I'm not going to explain this very well, but essentially where can we, most likely the building, like the elevator, if we put an elevator in, it'll have to bump out from the building, right? Because of the way that the stuff is structured. And in fact, when you walk in, like the front mezzanine, like where Nick, our zoning administrator, that's all concrete underneath. That's not even basement. And so there's all of these other factors. I mean, I walked through with the architect and our engineer, we're just going to use strands so that we can find the plans, you know. But there's a lot going into it, and then coupled with the fact that we got the assessment back on the building and we're seeing the stuff that's failing on it. I mean, this last year we just had to replace the electrical panel because when people were plugging the chargers in out at it was blowing our electrical in our, like we were losing electricity. So like there's stuff that needs to get done. It's just what happens with buildings.
What's the age of the building?
Well, the original building was built in the 60s, and then there was an add-on in, I believe, the 90s, and that's like that, you know, the circle is from the 60s, the add-on is from the 90s. I think, right, it's kind of weird that it wasn't ADA compliant because it was like right there, but they might have gotten all the plans approved just prior, and it is also very odd that there's no sprinkler system in it, I think. So.
You're not going to convert the vault into a sauna or anything?
I mean,
like
we
that?
should, but no, it's not.
I don't think the clerk would allow that.
No.
Any other questions? Okay. I would entertain a motion to recommend to council.
So moved.
Moved by
Second.
Lisa, second by Brett. All right. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And none opposed. So we will recommend that to council. Next one is to amend the 2025 capital improvement plan budget for the purchase of a Wildcat RHC 70 trommel screen at auction. And I had to look up what that is. Is this yours?
You can take this one if you like.
Oh,
So, yeah, this is a trommel screen. I think in your packet, I included a brochure of what it looks like. But basically, this is a screening mechanism that, you know, separates different aggregates, sizes. So the screen within the trommel screen is about, I think it's a 1/2 inch. And so we need to trommel all of our street sweepings. We have what's called a low hazard exemption. And so instead of taking all of our street sweepings to the landfill, we can actually put those on the sweepings on city property after we've had soil samples done, and then cap it. And so we also have to trommel the aggregates or the inorganics from the organics, and then separate those and take the inorganics to the landfill. So we have about 8 tons worth of material that we take to the landfill. The balance we can actually leave in place, reducing that the tipping fees to the landfill, as well as not bringing rocks basically to the landfill. We also use that to trommel our compost material, and then just our aggregates and our millings that we generate from road projects. So we take some of the bigger chunks out so we can use the material better. So right now we rent a unit for about $15,000 or $16,000 per year. And the reason this is time sensitive is that we were basically tipped off that there's a unit that was being put up at auction from the city of Beloit. Those of you that don't know, I came from Beloit 9 years ago, and this unit was there, and I'm pretty familiar with it. It's the right size for our municipality. The ones that we rent are huge, and the ones that are available for purchase these days are large. Next year in 2026, we do have a CIP ask for up to $120,000 to purchase a used unit. Most likely be a larger unit that really is overkill, but that's really what's on the market. So when this one came available, we feel like we need to jump on it. We did go take a look at it actually this morning with our fleet manager, street supervisor, and one of our operators to make sure that this is a unit that is in good condition, and then that we're up, that we're gonna be willing to bid up to $75,000 for. I think it'll come in much lower than that, but we want to put a price in that we thought would be competitive. So this one just kind of fell into our lap. I think we have the opportunity to save some money by not having to spend potentially $120,000 next year, but by using some operating funds from the rental, and then also some other unspent funds from other projects that we looked at. I think it could be a good deal for us. Any questions on this?
Brett, are you panning gold for this one, with this one too?
We certainly can. So if there's a
Perfect.
gold streak that you know of that yeah, it's fine. We always talk about the trommel screen. Everybody brings up a Gold Rush, and same, no riffles, I guess, but same type of trommel type screen, a drum type trommel screen.
All right, we can get those two mining rehab guys up here. They can come up here and fix that up. It'll be fine.
It'll pay for itself, sure.
Right. No, I think this is it's a great reuse of equipment. So I think that is a good find.
I was going to ask, I didn't see the packet portion that you referenced. It's a two-part question. How old is the current unit, and like what's the life cycle of or lifespan of one of these?
Yeah, so the one that we'd be bidding on is a 2003 unit, and they're really pretty simple. So a lot of it's all hydraulic driven and motors and drums. So we looked it over. Just so you guys know too that we can do all of our own hydraulic hoses and things like that in house. Motors, obviously, we need to purchase those. This one does come with an extra hydraulic motor for one of the belt drives. I believe there's only like 1,300 hours on it, so it was not a very heavily used unit. But it is 22 years old. However, the motor is in great shape. We ran it. Our fleet manager Bryce took a look at it. It's in really good condition. So basically, as long as you maintain these types of units and you can change out some hydraulic things over time, there's really not a whole lot that goes wrong on them. Obviously, there's some belts that you need to replace over time. We actually have a manufacturer in Stoughton that does these types of belts. So we've already kind of done some homework with them, and it'd be relatively inexpensive to maintain this type of unit. Depending on how much we would get this for, and keep in mind this is not a foregone conclusion that we'd win the bid. So this is just the opportunity to bid on it if you guys were to approve it. at the finance committee level and then the council. But you know, we may, if we have some extra, we may even buy an extra belt with these available funds, just so we have some stuff on the shelf that we can keep this going for the long haul.
Thank you. Any other questions?
If you watch Gold Rush on Discover Channel, then you see that some of these trommels are from like the 40s and 50s, and they're still running. They're pretty rugged.
Yeah, and they are relatively simple as long as you maintain them and keep the alignment right, on the drums and things like that. So they are made to be outdoors, not really stored inside, and they are built for the long haul. So and again, some of the fixes may be some hydraulics and some motors and belts and things like that, but nothing that we couldn't take care of in-house.
All right.
I'll move to recommend after all my smart ass comments.
Motion by President Schumacher,
I'll second.
second by Adrian. Any final comments? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? All right, we'll recommend that to
I
council.
feel like there's a historical fact coming out of that somewhere along the line.
Could well be.
Not today.
Thank you.
So the next item is R115, and this is to approve amendment to the agreement for subdivision improvements in Kettle Park West Phase 2. And I would ask Director Trebetowski, I think I know this one, but I'd love to hear your
Yes, so this was discussed at the last council meeting. We'd be purchasing some parkland, just under 3 acres, 40,000 an acre, and then releasing
The 8 lots.
eight lots. Yep.
Any questions? I have a question, but I'll defer until. Questions, comments?
Yeah, so this is, in relation to the conversation we had in closed session. So I think the city attorney just walked in, but basically, what he did is he put together the feedback that he received from the council and reworked the agreement with the attorney for Forward Development Group. And we're gonna recommend that this is contingent on some of the financial stuff that we still need to get, and Rick can explain that. You can sit anywhere you want.
So the one of the conditions is that they have to convey the land free and clear of any liens. They do have a mortgage on the property right now. One community bank is going to get us the release. So I would say that we approve this resolution and the agreement contingent on the mortgage release being provided to the city. We should have that relatively soon. They, one community bank is processing it.
Lisa?
I actually don't remember what the property looks like, and it's probably a question I should have asked last time, but is there any risk that its proximity to any construction work, that there could be, I don't know if damage is the right word, but, is it gonna look the same when we get it? Will there be any risk of a construction equipment going in there, and could it end up a property we don't want? I wish I'd have asked that last time, but I just thought of it.
I don't believe so. I mean, there is going to have to be construction.
We have the map up
Yeah,
there.
if you look at, well, or any of those, but this particular area that's being conveyed is south of the areas that would need this work. So the only construction I could see is, I know at some point we're talking about putting a pathway through there. That we might have to put something down. But that would be us doing it, not an outside developer.
So
Yeah,
it
well-
sounds like you're not concerned about that. Okay.
Once we own the property, they shouldn't be accessing it. so we can make clear, like, they're not allowed to use it, store anything. Because I know there's some issues with storing fill on some of the land out there, so we can make clear that that's not going to be permitted after this is conveyed.
Yeah, and I don't know if that needs to be included in the agreement, just so there's no misunderstanding, you know how
It
things.
shouldn't need to be included.
Right, so however you feel comfortable with that is
Yeah.
good with me.
Lisa, I was gonna ask you, was your concern about activities on the plots proper or adjacent that could impinge?
From what I understand, I think I was more concerned about the land itself, like in storage or, you know, equipment running through anything for whatever reason, just making sure that it always looks the same, whatever condition that's in, before and after they're done with the work in the area.
I'm guessing, not to speak for you, but like I'm sure they'll have to do some grading on that site because, you know, everything is sloped in toward that kettle, but if they're doing grading on there, that they're not driving, you know, turning around in there and ripping that all up, so.
Yeah, to do any of that, they technically need a construction easement to access that land
I
or
see.
permission. Otherwise, technically, it's a trespass at this point because it's not open to the public, but we can make that clear that they don't have permission to use the land for any of that.
As long
you.
as if they grade, they're not like leaving a ledge.
Right.
Other questions? So then, based on what you said, is there language we need to use around approving a contingent on the financials?
I think we could make a motion to approve subject to them providing a release of any outstanding mortgages.
Okay.
And I'll make that motion to recommend based on the attorney's verbiage.
Second?
All right, did you catch all that, Lisa? Okay.
Okay. Then we have a motion by Brett, second by Lisa. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? We will recommend to council with that contingency. Next item is not time sensitive. It is acceptance of an irrevocable standby letter of credit for STI Holdings Incorporated. It looks like this is to amend the existing letter of credit.
So essentially what we're doing is we're releasing the letter of credit per the developer agreement on phase 1 and rolling it into phase 2A. And so that's what's going on. And then I've attached a memo with it, spelling it out, adding all the numbers in, and then how the letter of credit will be released. Basically putting it into a lot simpler wording on the stormwater information, so.
And just to be specific, this is from phase 1 to only 2A.
If you look on page 3 of the planner's report, I actually have the map on there showing where phase 1 and phase 2A is, just so that we're making sure we're referencing the correct area. That's straight from the resolution for the developer agreement.
So this is just a technical question. Having driven by there every day, since I live right there, there's substantial work going on. Should this have been in place before the excavation started, or?
No, I can probably talk a little bit more offline with that. Moving dirt, really at this point, it's on their own risk. But when they start installing infrastructure, that's when we need the letter of credit put into place. And they do already have a letter of credit on the phase 1. So does that help answer your question?
It does.
Okay.
They're responsible for it irrespective. Yeah.
Yeah, and this is, these letters of credit are examples where we always come back and ask for approval, but contractually, unless we have a reason not to, if it's a request to release it and they've done everything according to what's outlined in the developer's agreement, we really have to release it. So that's one of them where it begs the question, do we need approval to do that, or can we do that administratively? We're not going to answer that tonight, but I wanted to at least point out that these are the examples we're going to talk about internally, and I'm sure the city attorney will have an opinion on that as well.
I should also point out all of this is in the developer agreement that you guys vet very well way before now, so.
Any other questions? Any motions?
Would make the motion to recommend approval to council.
Recommended by Lisa,
Second.
second by Adrienne. Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
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 And any opposed? All right, we will recommend to council. Another standby letter of credit. This one is regarding utility extension agreement with MJR Properties for 1521 East Main Street.
So this one here is for the proposed Badger Wash. So they've been doing some utility work in conjunction with the DOT, that's project that's going on. So they're really trying to beat the clock and get everything installed beforehand. So utilities, recommended that we move this forward and approve it at City Council.
Looks like it's about 80,000, give or take.
Yeah, but it'll be much better to do this now and get the project done than it will be to try to do it after the road is constructed.
The sewer extension agreement was actually approved at the June 24th council meeting, so that the agreement was approved. This is just the letter of credit portion.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Any questions? All right, hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve this.
Motion to recommend.
Second.
All right, motion by Brett, second by Lisa. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. And any opposed? All right, we'll recommend to council, and I think this is the last of the regular order business. So this is to amend the 2025 operating budget for mini grant extension.
So the mini grant is a program that was put in place a few years ago with the Landmarks Commission. And what it does is when we do the operations budget, I put a request in there in the budget to allow them to allocate money for historical preservation projects. And one of the things we find during the process from the business owners or homeowners to apply is sometimes they apply for it, they receive the grant from Landmarks, but the projects don't start or they get delayed. And then typically in the past, we carried the money over. You might recall that we're doing budget amendments for any carryovers. So we've been really trying to clean up this account going forward. The Landmarks Commission is actually shortening the window and starting the window earlier in the year so they can get their grant requests in earlier in the year and get the projects quoted during the winter months, so when the spring comes they can start the project sooner instead of approving it in April and then trying to find a contractor and it gets into next year. So I think there's a request from Landmarks, and maybe Lisa, you can give us a little bit more background on it.
Yeah, so you pretty much summed it up, although maybe just to clarify, they don't actually get the money. They get an approval for the grant pending the work getting done and then the work getting approved. And the one thing that we chatted about in finance and we also did in Landmarks is that we will ask them whether or not they have a contractor lined up because that's been, oftentimes that's been an issue, is the contractor's not set. And so we did confirm with this gentleman that he has a date. In fact, the work may have already started by now. So we'll be tidying up that process as far as making sure that, that they actually have someone in mind. Well, they would have someone in mind because the contractor has to be approved, but when the date is. So anyway, this work will get done. And then moving forward, I think we'll have a better process for staying ahead of it, and we'll check in closer to fall this year to see what is still outstanding, so we're not having to amend next year for this year. That's the plan, so.
Yeah, and I think the other part of it that causes the delay is on these historical preservations, we have to do a certificate of appropriateness, or a COA, which Landmarks needs to approve to make sure that the materials are being, and process that's being done to renovate the buildings are according to the guidelines that we have in place in our Chapter 38 ordinances. So sometimes finding a contractor and getting that approved takes additional time. It's not like, getting a permit to roof your house. But if it's a historic house in the downtown especially, it might be a little bit more challenging. Yeah. So I think understanding all that gives you a little bit more perspective of why we've had that challenge. But the Landmarks has been really good about trying to work with the property owners and us to tighten that up.
Any questions? Comments, concerns? Okay, I would open the floor up to a motion.
I'd make the motion to recommend approval to council.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion to recommend from Lisa and a second from Brett. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? All right. Then I believe I have to pull up the agenda again, sorry. We are now into future agenda items. So August 12th, is that the next meeting? Feels like a long time from now.
Are you complaining about that?
Not at all, it just feels like it.
It
Yeah.
is.
So we have preliminary equalized value, levy limits and expenditures restraint, and our credit rating. I assume that is the report, how our rating is coming back.
Yep, we have the rating call next week, so then we'll just provide the rating release.
And then the next meeting after that, investment review from Ehlers. And then in October, the operating budget presentation. And then we have our dates to be determined, which we've talked about before. And again, reminder of when the CIP meetings are, 14th, 21st, and hopefully not, if needed, the 28th. Any items that need to be added or questions? All right, then I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Moved by Brett, seconded by Adrian. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.
Time to spare. I thought we'd have no time to